Devil's advocates whisper in the hall, where justice wears a mask and truth begins to fall. Every thread they pull, every lie they weave, in the courtroom's dance, who's left to believe? Oh, the devil's in the details, hiding in plain sight, innocent until the gavel steals the light. True crime echoes through the hollow night, fighting injustice with no end. The devil's in the details, hiding in plain sight, innocent until the gavel steals the light. True crime echoes through the hollow night, fighting injustice with no end in sight. A photograph fades where the truth once stood. Blurred lines between the bad and the good. The scales they tilt with every silver tongue, while the broken cry for a song unsung. Black robes sway like shadows on the wall. One wrong word and the mighty fall. Who's a sinner? Who's a saint? The jury's out, but the verdict's faint. Oh, the devil's in the details, hiding in plain sight, innocent until the gavel steals the light. True crime echoes through the hollow night, fighting injustice with no end. The devil's in the details, hiding in plain sight, innocent until the gavel steals the light. True crime echoes through the hollow night, fighting injustice with no end in sight.
Ladies and gentlemen, do you want to know why I'm here today? It's not because I want to give you a pep talk or because I want to make you feel good about yourselves. No, I'm here to tell you the truth.
All right. Hey, welcome to a Friday night. I'm getting a little saucy. My guests online in the back here are probably getting a little saucy. And by the way, Troubled Ocean, can I get a wave, by the way? Make sure that I got audio going. You guys see? Okay, perfect. Troubled Ocean just pulled out one of my favorite sayings. I am here to kick ass and chew bubblegum, and I am all out of bubblegum. That is a line. Actually, I think it was the other way around. I think it was actually, I'm here to chew bubblegum and kick ass, and I'm all out of bubblegum. But it was a line from a movie called They Live way back in the day with Roddy Piper. Is that how you say that? The wrestler. One of my favorite movies, sci-fi. But when I saw Troubled Ocean said, I'm here to kick ass and chew bubblegum, I'm like, holy shit, I love that movie. I love that line. One of my favorite movies ever is They Live. You should watch it. It's amazing. What does that have to do with true crime? Absolutely nothing. So let's get to the show. By the way, before I bring my panelists on stage, some of my guests know, every one of my panelists knows we just received some bombshell information, in my opinion, bombshell. And I do not like using the phrase bombshell too lightly, but we've received some bombshell information via a FOIA request that came in today. I want to call this a soft confirmation meaning something that came through in FOIA today confirmed something I've suspected for a long time and confirmed it with 90% certainty. I want to go, and I have already filed this morning the FOIA request to get the 100% certainty. But the response I got from FOIA today pretty much solidified something that I have thought for quite a while. And I was like, oh my God, there it is. Now, what does it mean? What does it say? I hate teasing stuff that I can't deliver on. Maybe we'll get into it. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. But a huge, huge bombshell in the FOIA request, in my opinion. A little less of a bombshell than where I know it's going to go. It's where I know it's going to go is the bombshell. So that's a little teaser. We'll see. Maybe my panelists will drag that shit out of me on stage. I want to be careful because, again, what I want to do is I want to provide you the receipts, the 100% receipts, not just the soft confirmation. I could tell you the soft confirmation, but I really think we should wait until we get the 100% receipts before we explain to you what it means and why it's important. So anyways, for those who were there, by the way, thank you so much. I saw that Foxy Rose and the thing was doing a lot of talk about, hey, I did not like Lee talking about his obsession with Brent Kopacka. Let me tell you that the FOIA request is about Brent Kopacka. So that's I never, and I'm sorry that you did not like me talking about Brent Kopacka. But that is indeed where some of the bombshell stuff comes. And we'll, again, whether or not we get into that tonight, probably not too much. I don't want to give you half details. I want to give you the full details. So Amanda, thank you. Welcome in. Foxy Rose, thank you. Despite the fact that you're like, I really don't like it when Lee obsesses about Brent Kopacka. I get it. I'm sorry that that's not one of your favorite scenarios. However, I've thought from day one that there was a connection, and I just found a bigger connection through a FOIA request that will be a shock, I think, to some people. It certainly was validating to me because I had people say, devil's advocates, you're an idiot. There's no proof of that. I just got the proof of it. So something that I had speculated for a while, and I got proof of it through a FOIA request. So fucking yay me. One of my favorite things. Robin's laughing at me behind stage, like fucking yay me. But anyways, let me say some hellos. I'll bring my panelists up one at a time. So again, Foxy Rose, I see you're very, very chatty tonight. Foxy's here all the time. So while she says, I don't like Lee's obsession with Kopacka, she's still here. Although I think maybe your theory about Koberger's and Kopacka's connection might be a little off, but maybe not. Maybe not. We'll talk about that perhaps as well. Essie's in the house. Backstage is Robin, so the two of them together are hanging out and ready to rock tonight. We got we got Amanda B, the graphics specialist, and many other things. It's selling her short to say that she's just graphics. She does so much more for the channel, especially moderation. Becca 1019, welcome. Daenerys Stargaryen. I know that's from even one is both from Game of Thrones, right? So, and Daenerys and it's funny because I don't remember 1-1, but I remember 1-1 telling me where 1-1 came from. So I don't know why for some reason it didn't stick with me like it stuck with him. But what a great show that was. She-Devil, literally in the house next door, hopefully listening. I think there's a delay when she's listening. It's funny. I get done with my show and I walk out of my room and she's still listening to my show. So I don't know what's the delay, but she's always slightly behind me for whatever reason that may be. What else we have? Troubled Ocean, again, here to kick ass, chew bubblegum, and I'm all out of bubblegum. Cat's Mojo, welcome as well. We've got others in the house. Hope, here's a new one. Hope Norris. Hope Norris. Is that like Chuck Norris? Only it's Hope Norris. Anyways, I just want to go like heavy on Chuck Norris jokes right now, but I'm not going to. Love Chuck Norris jokes. Anyways, that's one of my favorite pastimes. Who else do we have? Thumper, Rabbit Hole. Again, I just always think something inappropriate when I think that. I don't know why. That's just a whole personal issue I'm working through. Here for the Truth Now. What a great name. Here for the Truth Now. I love that. What a very cool name. And Miss Lisa, just going to look for Sandy Sylvester, Sandra Sylvester. I knew I'd get to it. Sheesh. Okay, Sandra Sylvester, welcome as well. Sometimes we're all Phoenix Rising 214 has been here for a while now. Poetic Justice, welcome. A lot of great names that I'm seeing on a regular, so thank you so much for being part of it. Remember, by the way, Robin, if you will, post the link for people to join us backstage. So if you want to come up, tonight is a great night. It's a Friday night. It's a good time for you to grab. As Estes will say, don't don't just grab a hot cocoa. Maybe spike that shit with a little bourbon or something like that. Get yourself a little bit loose. Let's come backstage, have a little bit of fun with this. I'm in that mood tonight. We got that one. The Taoist, or the Dahlia Lost. There you go. The Dahlia Lost. See, I told you. Maybe the drinks are already affected me. It can't be. Anyway, so what else do we have? Anybody else that we want to say hi to as we're looking through there? Miss Lisa B. If I didn't say hi, welcome as well. All right, let me scroll through. I'm almost to the end of people. Okay, good. Hope Norris. Okay, perfect. We already did that. All right, let's bring Robin in. And Robin is my oh, I can't unmute Robin. I don't know if it's because they chose to mute themselves. Oh, it said you can't unmute Robin because Robin chose to mute herself. That's what it said. How you doing tonight, Robin?
I am doing well. Thank you. It's always a pleasure to be here with you and all the denizens.
Remember we used to do the whole Friday night, what do we call it? The after dark party or something like that?
It was the after dark party, yeah.
Yeah, and it just never took off. In fact, to my shame and humiliation, it only took off when we had a guest come in with a much bigger reputation than me. If I would do the after dark and invite people to the Discord channel, we'd hang out with 2 people, and then I'd have a guest come up, and freaking 200 people would show up, and I'm like, I guess nobody wants to hang out with me after dark. Just my guest, but it is what it is. But you'll hang out with me, Robin, so I appreciate that very much.
That's right.
Robin is co-producer of our show. She helps me with so many little things that are hard to enumerate, and she doesn't get paid jack or shit. So unfortunately, just out of the love of her heart. So thank you so much for that, Robin. Let's bring up 11, our resident NYPD consultant, if you will, or consultant. That's what I keep wanting to call him. And it looks like also 11, you've got yourself muted, so I can't unmute you. So you're gonna have to unmute your mic to say hello. How you doing tonight?
Hey guys, I'm fired up.
Yeah,
I'm ready to drop some bombs, not literally, but on
MPD, as well.
ISP. Let's go. Let's get the tanks. Let's get the grenade launchers.
Yeah, and
whatever it takes.
One, you're developing a little bit of a fan base. Like there's a lot of people who are like, oh my God, it's 11, he's amazing.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're developing.
I gotta say my lines. I gotta say my lines for you. I only did it one. I think I did it last Saturday. So okay. I see JJ's backstage.
Yeah,
all right,
he dropped out and came back. We also have a guest backstage.
Here we go, everyone. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, people of all ages. Welcome to the most stupendous, most riveting, most captivating true crime show out there, where narratives get challenged, timelines get ripped apart, and facts don't care about feelings. This is the show that refuses the script, questions the official story, and shines a spotlight where others are afraid to look. We don't follow the crowd, we cross-examine it. If you're here for blind relief, comfort theories, and talking point justice, you might want to hit pause now. But if you're here for critical thinking, receipts, and hard truths, then welcome home, because this is Devil's Advocates. And if you're not down with that, we've got 2 words for you. You can figure them out.
And it's live from the West Coast.
And let me just say I'm not going to say what it is. I wouldn't be the one to reveal the bombshell. Lee has a huge bombshell coming, huge. But as he said in the intro there, he wants to make sure he has a few more receipts just to back it up. But to me, it is a huge thing. So hopefully that pans out.
I think it is enormous, and I've talked about it with lawyers already, and the lawyers think it's enormous. Everybody agrees it's going to be it's one of those gut instinct things. You hear it, and you're like, gut instinct tells you that's not a fucking coincidence. That's a problem. And so we'll talk about that when the time comes. By the way, Dawn, who's backstage, thank you so much for queuing up on the backstage. I do want to bring up my one more panelist, Joe or JJ from State of the Deep. I want to get Joe on stage, have them say hello. That way the full panel is here for Dawn when Dawn comes up and asks a question or makes a comment or whatever. And yeah, by the way, I'm fired up as well. The latest video from the latest release from Moscow Police Department to Jules, with that critical time frame between 1 o'clock in the morning and 2:30 in the morning. and they've redacted all the sound.
Son of a bitches, and she paid more money for it.
Yeah,
they made her. She paid like another $170, and then they give her a bunch of horse shit.
Let me remind you, this is not a child story, so I will say, what the fuck with this case and this hiding shit?
Right.
Why if this is exactly what you tell us it is, are you still redacting and hiding shit, you sons of bitches? This fucking case sucks. This whole case sucks. Everything about this case sucks. If it's exactly what you told us it was, why the hell are you redacting everything still? Why are you still moving to suppress documents? Holy shit. All right. Let's just bring up Joe. Let's bring up Joe. State of the deep. All right. What's up, Joe? How you doing?
What's up, everybody? That's a tough act to follow there, but how you doing, Den? What's up, Robin? 11 DA.
Hello.
This case boggles the mind. This case boggles the mind. It's just, I mean, think about it. Think about it, guys. If it was exactly what they told us was an incel who just decided that he is obsessed by some girl and had to do this, why the fuck do we have a colossal gag order still in place? Why are we still gagging people? Why are we still redacting things? Why is it that everybody in the fucking internet community has already figured out the names who are involved with this case, including Dylan Mortensen and Bethany Funk and Showalter, and they're still redacting those names like we don't fucking get to know who they are? We know who they are. Everyone knows who they are. You're only fooling yourself if you think you're still redacting that shit. We know who they are. Why are you still redacting shit? This is boggling my mind. I've never seen anything to the level of cover-up that this story has. It's ridiculous. It makes you believe that there has to be something else because there's no reason for it. If it's as simple as you said, look, move over. The guy, move on. He pled guilty. Really? So if that's the case, unredact it all and show us. Show us exactly what we believe, what you have told us it is, because it's horseshit. It didn't happen that way. I've told you from day one. All right, sorry, sorry, Joe. I'm still on a rant.
Yeah. I watched that. I watched Jules's video as well, and I knew it. I knew all along. I was saying,
you called it.
I said
you called it.
It's going to be somehow redacted, and right before, as soon as I opened up her stream and I started watching it, before she even said there was no sound, I said, I bet you these fuckers are going to release it without sound. Because you would hear them getting out of the car from behind.
It is unbelievable.
Unbelievable.
And so right now, what that does, they can't say, how do they know that that's, they can't prove that that's when they got home. Because if you can't hear anybody getting out of the car and them talking and people being able to say, yeah, that sounds like two girls, getting out of the car and they're talking or whatever, they're walking inside. So
it's this case.
But here's the thing. What's crazy is we have the Linda Lane video, which is on the other side, because I do believe that most of these sounds and whatever probably are somewhat close to 1122. So the Queen's apartment and that parking lot's on the other side. So that's why the sounds are somewhat muffled. So we know there's a bunch of shit going on from 115. Around 115, there's a whole bunch of shit going on. And it would have been nice to, it really makes me believe. I know Jules had said that whoever it was that she was dealing with, in Idaho over there, it wasn't like the normal person. So I almost think the video she got, audio she got 2 years ago, she probably wasn't even supposed to get that with the audio.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
And for those people who believe in, I don't want to use the word divine intervention, but for people who believe in that kind of thing, it makes you think. There's a lot of people who say everything eventually comes out into the light. I kind of agree with you. Thank you. I'm glad Joe's joining me for a drink. I kind of think you're right. It was one of those mistakes that was meant to happen. Right? Somebody was in the office that day that wasn't supposed to be there. They got a request for public information. They decided that they have to, because they know the law. Like if you request it, they have to release it, right? And somebody wasn't there to perform control that day, and something got out, and now they're like, oh shit, like you just released that? Are you kidding me? Like, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but it makes me think that it was fortuitous.
I think it was a mistake. Because why would they? You know, from 2 weeks ago, they definitely didn't. They definitely didn't mean to release that audio. Because why would they redact this whole audio? You know,
right? And it's just like, I think they made a mistake. I know they've officially explained it, and it's a horseshit. Oh my God, I'm on fire tonight. So it's horseshit. It's just like they made the mistake. ISP, Idaho State Police, made the mistake when they released 2,000 something pages of documents, and they accidentally unredacted Brian Koberger's name as suspect number 2 weeks before they said that they had him on the radar. And ISP has tried to backpedal and say, oh, it's a clerical error. You know, we entered something into the state. Bullshit. Bullshit.
No,
that name was always on the paperwork from the 5th of December. You said you never heard about Brian Koberger's name until the 19th of December. It's bullshit. You released by accident because somebody made a mistake and unredacted Brian Koberger's name as suspect number 2, not even number 1, suspect number 2 on the 5th of December. So you lied under oath. Now, they're going to backpedal. They're going to tell, clerical error, you know, that wasn't actually on the paper. My ass. You guys are, I'm mad, dude.
Yeah.
I'm mad.
Mm-hmm.
Dawn has been waiting patiently backstage. Let's make sure we give our guest a moment to say a piece. I don't know if Dawn is going to talk about Idaho 4. I'm ranting about Idaho 4 right now, but it seems to be the big topic people usually talk about. So, Dawn, be prepared. I'm going to put you on stage. It looks like you've got no camera turned on. That's perfectly fine. You should be audio live in about 10 seconds. Are you ready? Here we go. All right, Dawn, are you there?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
I can. What's up tonight?
I would wait patiently for you guys forever. Thank you so much for having me up on panel. Yeah. And I'm not going to waste your time. And yes, it is an Idaho 4 thing that I want to talk to you about.
Okay.
I don't want to ruin your theory with Brent and Brian knowing each other and being together from Pennsylvania. I totally believe that. However, after watching everything that we've all seen for the last 3.5 years and how the shit doesn't make sense and how they're purposely fucking us over and keeping us in the dark.
Yeah.
I think in the bottom of my heart that Koberger is a Fed, a CIA, something to do. He's in protective custody. And listen, and this is why. Do you guys remember when like those cowboys went through the house at the very beginning and they ignored the reporter outside of the house and then climbed in the van?
Yeah.
Okay. I think Koberger was the one in the big cowboy hat with the plaid shirt on, and he was tall. I think he was like maybe the first or second one to actually get in the van. Only because when I could zoom in on the back of his neck, he has his hairline, like when he would be sitting in court, and his face was all pasty white. Well, of course, because, you know, he needs to be hidden, or if it's not him, they are hiding the other person's true identity. But I'm just saying, I think it's him. And even the van that they climbed into had Washington plates. If you can remember, I forget the other car, I think had Idaho plates on, but the one he climbed into had the Washington plates. So that's where I'm at after all of this 3.5 years, that he's in on it somehow, because I just can't find any, unless like what you got for your FOIA, yay for you. I just can't explain.
Oops, your audio cut out right there. So, Dawn, your audio cut out when you said, I can't explain, and then your audio cut dramatically quickly. So I'll give you a second to see if you can fix it. If not, we'll just run with what you've given us.
I think she froze up there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. All
right. So, and if she froze, then unfortunately she may unfreeze right in the middle of us talking. So we'll see how that goes. But so to speak to what Dawn was saying, it's interesting. Like, I think most of us, are of the opinion that the quote unquote cowboys that she's talking about were probably federal marshals, right? So there was video footage, it seemed like, of those cowboys. They had cowboy hats that went into the house. Somebody zoomed in on a video footage of them in the window and actually saw what looked like a marshal's badge around their chest. And so, if that was indeed federal marshals, which it seems like it was, it raises a bunch of red flags in this case, right? Federal marshals for those who don't understand, and even I don't understand all of what federal marshals do, but one of the things federal marshals do is they protect people who are in witness protection. They protect people who are being moved from one case to another who might need protection. For example, if somebody's going to testify against the mob, for example, the federal marshals might help with that. They help provide security and transport for people who are involved in criminal cases. And so that's just some of the things that the marshals do. So the marshals' involvement, if it indeed was a federal marshal or marshals that were there, is super, super fucking interesting, considering this is supposed to be a random incel who just decided he can't get laid, so he has to kill 4 people. Like, what part of that has anything to do with federal marshals? What part of that has anything to do with the FBI? What part of that has anything to do with Homeland Security that was involved in the investigation? What part of a random guy deciding that he just wants to kill some people because he's obsessed with murder and wants to be a serial killer has anything to do with marshals, the Homeland Security, FBI, any of that shit? Why are federal agencies involved in this case if it's just a random incident? It makes no sense. And no person, no body was transported across a state line to make it a federal case. So why are they involved in the whole thing? Joe, I see that you're chomping at the bit to say something.
Yeah, they also track down fugitives. That's another thing that federal marshals do. And so, that raises questions. Was there a suspect at some point that was a fugitive? And that's why they were on the scene at some point in time. Just another, potential scenario.
To Don's point, I don't think you guys, I think everybody on this panel right now knows a little bit about what my FOIA bombshell, whatever reveal is. I don't think that what she just said changes anything about the Kopacka scenario, really, to be honest with you. Kopacka still very much can play into this whole scenario, regardless of whether or not he was involved with the marshals or anything like that. That does not negate anything that we found out in our recent FOIA request. Can you guys, without giving away what our FOIA request showed today, can you see how anything would be ruined if Kohberger somehow was involved with the marshals?
No, I agree with Dawn that I've thought for quite a while that Kohberger is somehow related with the feds, either as an operative or an informant of some kind. And, I've felt pretty strongly about that. And, but again, there's so many angles with this case that you could create a lot of different theories that all would have some logic behind them.
Yeah. And again, like Diane Draper said here, marshals could be involved with the drug trafficking angle. We know that there was money coming into Idaho to talk about fentanyl coming across the Mexican border through Idaho, and they were fighting that. There was a multi-jurisdictional drug task force in the area. So yes, I think all of the federal agencies could be involved with something to be related with the drug industry and the drug task force and stuff that was going on. How that relates to the murders is the $1 million question, and how that relates to a random incel deciding to hit a house, but yet all of a sudden every federal agency and their dog is involved in the case when it was just a random incel doesn't make sense, does it? Something is not right. Something is not right, and they're hiding shit and they're redacting shit and they're muting audio in the critical time frames. How the fuck are people not losing their mind on this? Now, here's the problem. Joe and I had a long discussion about this today, and it really, really bugged me. You know that I tend not to want to spend a ton of time. I personally don't want to spend a ton of time, although I want to entertain it. But I don't want to spend a ton of time on the whole, it's a witness extraction, never really happened, nobody died angle of this whole thing. And WITSEC protection, Kohberger's working for the feds and he's on an island somewhere sipping Mai Tais and the whole thing's a big... I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on it. And yet, here's what bothers me. If it was anything that was involving the federal government, national security issues of drugs coming across the border, is it possible that it doesn't matter how much we bitch and complain about the fact that it's a lie, they will never be legally compelled to tell us shit? And we will forever just be a bunch of people running our mouths, and they will be allowed legally to lie to us all day long, every day. And there's not a fucking thing we can do about it. We'll just have to accept that maybe an innocent person went to jail for something just to cover up a bigger thing that we're just too little to understand. And I need to just shut the hell up. Is that really how it's going to end? Are we really just going to be just never going to be able to find the truth. And all we're going to know is that it wasn't what you said. Because that's what I keep saying. It didn't happen the way you said it did. And we're just going to have to accept that we'll never know the truth.
It could be. And it also could be like, if we're going to go down the angle that BK is some kind of operative or whatnot, and he's trying to help the feds and all that, could still something go down, under their watch. And that's what some of this cover up is about too. They don't want the embarrassment that even though they were watching the house and whatnot, I know Esty has said like, oh, if all these different people were watching the house, how could something happen? Well, let me remind you again. I like to bring up other cases and correlate stuff. Remember, again, we brought it a few times, Brian Laundrie and Gabby Petito. Well, they pretty much had Brian Laundrie nailed down that he was like the primary suspect, right? Everyone remember that? And they're like, we don't know what happened. It's, he drove her car, the van back or whatever. Yeah, this is like really suspicious. Well, they were watching him, right? It wasn't maybe Homeland Security. It was whatever, the police department or whoever it was that was watching him. He was being watched. How the hell how were they watching him 24 hours a day and he still was able to leave the house and go to the nature preserve? So this stuff happens all the time. So is it a possibility that, again, I can go by that BK he's in this PhD program that, in criminal justice and what, he definitely would have been seeked out. Was he trying to, monitor and help them and all that? Definitely possibility, but could still something go, they dropped the ball. They made a mistake or they made a miscalculation. Absolutely. Right. They're not gonna come forward and tell us that, oh yeah, we had this investigation going on and we should have saved everyone, but we fucked up.
Right. And we talked about this the other night. There was a cop car stationed, apparently, allegedly there was a cop car stationed at the Whites before the murders happened, which if you park in the right place on the Whites apartments, you can actually see the 1122 King Road residence. Was the house, and again, rumor has it, I'm going to say rumor, although it's probably more than rumor. Rumor has it there was cops that were surveilling that neighborhood all night, right? There was cops that were making multiple passes of the house. Was that house under surveillance by the police because they knew a hit was on the way or could happen at any time, and they fucked up and it happened right under their nose? Is that one scenario? Did it happen right, despite the fact that cops were all over that neighborhood, watching that neighborhood because they might have known a hit was coming and they were watching, and maybe that was just a huge embarrassment to them. Like, holy shit, we allowed this to happen right under our faces. And maybe that's part of the whole cover up, is like, we can't acknowledge that literally we were protecting a CI or somebody that we knew was under threat, and we were watching the house and it still fucking happened, right? Or you get even worse. No, I don't even want to say it out loud. You get worse in
Jules's video, you see the cops under that car. Yeah. Did you guys see that?
I didn't get to finish all of it.
Well, I saw what she thought was a cop car.
Finished all of it yet.
That car that they were at the band field, it seems pretty obvious that it's that car right around the time, right before what we believe is Gower's car, that what was it, a Ford Focus or Escort or whatever, the silver car, comes around and goes towards 1122. So right at that time.
I think it's plausible. To think that again, this comes with support. It's not just pulling it out of our ass. It's possible somebody in that house was working with the feds or working with the police to bust somebody into drugs, and that drug organization was like, fuck these people, they're snitching, they're gonna die. And it's possible that they were being protected by the police and they had a surveillance on the house and still failed to protect the people, right? And now they have this huge embarrassment that they had somebody under protection.
They were out. fucking after these kids instead of watching the house like they should have been. Can you imagine that? We're busting down these kids when we should have been watching the house to make sure that people stayed alive. So
well, you guys, we talked about this, you know, with Kaylee and being involved potentially with Rosie, right? And one talked about this ad nauseum, that he believes that he went to that house at some point that night, right?
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, between 3 and 3:50. He was there. Rosie was at that house, definitely.
But that car, and you guys will have to see it and tell me what you think. It looks like it's that silver car. Gets there right before Gower, you know, drops them off, or right around the same time. Well, could it be Kaylee? He's one of the people that Kaylee was texting at the grub truck. Hey, I'm going to be heading home shortly. He gets dropped off at the house. Yeah. Right. And then it's just something to consider, which would lead to why they would want to change the time frame if there was a cop at the house around the times of the actual murders.
Oh yeah.
They wouldn't want that to get out. Oh, by the way, one of our officers was at the house a half an hour before the murders happened. So they shift the time and the murders back. You know, we could get real nefarious with our theories. I mean, and obviously we're not giving anything away about what TA found out. We're not going to do that, but there's a lot of reason to believe there was high level shit going on.
Yeah.
And part of me has to wonder, like, is it okay to talk about what we have 99% or 90% sure, or do we want to wait for the 100%? Like that's the part. I will have to say though, at the moment, as one would say off camera, I need to take a wicked piss. So I need to step away from the camera to go to the little boys' room. You guys got the show for a minute. I'll be right back, and then let me know whether you think we should talk about it or just wait until we got it 100%. I'll be right back.
She loves to tease people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you guys all know my feelings that I've said it a million times. The only thing I'm sure about with this case is that there was an op involved.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Otherwise,
now,
there's
on what
so
level?
much crazy shit.
Right. Exactly. I mean, we keep saying it, but it's true. If it's so simple, why is shit still redacted? Why isn't Cy Ray allowed to talk? Okay, can we just, that would solve so many things. Just that man's testimony alone.
Well, did you hear? I didn't watch his video or anything, but apparently, Jules said she was gonna do a future video very shortly on it. I guess apparently Greg Hughes got some other photo or video of some of the WSU footage, possibly maybe the one that we're trying to get at 2:53, and he's now saying that it's not BK's car. That's what Jules was saying. No. So, but I guess she wants
Hughes
to.
Is saying that.
Yes,
that's something, because Gray Hughes is a huge guilter.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So she didn't say that he's changing his whole narrative that BK is innocent or didn't do it, but she's saying he was saying something that he was wrong about the car, that it's not BK's car.
One. I got that footage, by the way. I have the footage you're talking about. I just haven't had time to review it yet. Somebody gave me the footage that may show the time that we've been missing, the 2:53 a.m. whatever. I have that footage, I think, and I've got it available. I just haven't had time to review it. So hold your fucking hats, because you're right. If Gray Hughes, who's a huge guilter, yeah.
Well, again, I didn't hear I didn't hear it from him. I heard if Jules was saying it, but I don't think Jules would say it if he didn't say it. So
Yeah,
No.
I think we've got that footage. Somebody gave me the link to the footage. I got it quickly downloaded so that we'd have it. I think we have that footage, and I've got it. And to be fair, I've got my own public records request in for the same
Right.
thing. So so here's the thing: they better fucking not charge me for it because it's already been produced. It's already out there. So when they give me the response, they better give me the response without saying there's a price tag with it because you've already produced it to somebody else. So anyways,
Hey, DA, if you're gonna drop any little Kopaka nuggets tonight, let me give you let me introduce it. Let me give you a little teaser before you do it. Just give me a warning, because DA and I spent many hours in a car together in Idaho, driving all over the state. I mean, what, probably 20 hours of driving in that 4 days.
Yeah.
And we've talked about everything you guys could possibly imagine. So anyway, I'll let, obviously DA is going to decide if he's going to do that or not, but
yeah, it's I'm wondering, is the Friday night drinks going to impair my decision on what the right thing to do is here? Like, what is the right thing to do here? Because I mean, in the one hand, I want to be able to do a full length video, a real video with a premiere on all the receipts, and so I don't want to rob that power of bringing the receipts.
I think you should just do it as a premiere when you're ready.
Yeah, but the problem, what the problem with that is, the problem is that it could take weeks for us to get the 100% receipts. Like, I've got 90% receipts, but then I had to file new documents to say I want 100%, and I don't know how quickly they're going to respond to it. They'll get it within a couple days. But how quickly will they respond to it? I don't know. But anyways, it's funny because when Robin was talking about doing it live, I realized they've been working on some of my Kopaka shooting stuff for a couple weeks now, and I haven't checked the status. I was assuming they're going to email me when they got some new thing, but they literally gave me a link that said, "Here's your link to continue to check the status." And I'm like, shit, I should go check the status while we're doing a live and see if they've given us any stuff. We'll do it live, but I'm also afraid to do it live because I like to check things out before I open my mouth. So there's that.
Well, the craziest thing is, I will say this without giving anything away at all, but when DA and I were driving around all over Idaho together, part of what we did was we workshopped ideas to bounce them off each other of what we thought could be plausible. Because if stuff doesn't logically make sense, I think for me and probably everybody here, it's hard to run with that if it doesn't make logical sense. I think we're all critical thinkers in that if something doesn't have any logic to back it up, it's very hard to keep going down that road. And some of the things we talked about relating to Kopaka and other aspects make a lot of logical sense. You can logically go with that narrative, and it has real legs to it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, and you're right. Like, sometimes I forget how much we've talked about this case, because you're right. We spent 20 hours in a car together and we've talked about a million things, and I'll be like, have we ever talked about this? Like, yeah, we already talked about that. Like, I don't even remember where the hell I talked about some of these things, because we talked a lot about it. Shit. But, I'm trying to log in real quick to the Pullman portal to see if they've got an update on my Kopaka shooting paperwork. So give me a second.
And for any of the people, Robin was there. One was there when we did those wacky live members only streams.
Yeah.
While we were doing that, it was weird because I had never been to that part of the country at all. And to go to the spots that we've all seen a million times.
Yes.
And to see it firsthand, I was really animated during those members onlys because I was being impacted by being there, seeing the apartment complex that we've seen in a million videos, seeing all the little spots on the King Road area, driving past the band field the first time during one of those members only lives. I drove past the band field. I was like, guys, I was like freaking out. That's the band field. That's the band.
Yeah.
Because you you've seen it a million times, and all of a sudden you're there, and it's very trippy to see that
Yes.
area right there.
It was
it's very
surreal. Yeah, it was surreal.
And those lives were a blast too, because people were dropping
Yeah, they were.
some bombs in the chat that whole time.
Read the damn
Well,
chat.
I will say I did look into the portal at Pullman. I've got 3 requests into Pullman. One is on surveillance footage from WSU on Koberger's car coming and going. They have not responded to that. It's in progress. And then I've got 2 separate requests into Brent Kopacka, one involving the night of the shooting and one involving their history with Brent Kopacka. Both of those are in progress as well with no updates. So we don't have those updates yet. What happened? 1-1 dropped off and he went silent. Joe's looking off into space at his drink longingly, saying, "I want a drink of that."
Yeah, maybe he's getting.
I was reading the chat.
Oh yeah,
I get a lot of shit for making sure I read the chat.
I do. I know. Whenever I
Where'd he
read the
go?
chat, people are like, "Are you distracted? Are you reading the chat?"
Nope. I was just looking to see if there was any. Everybody's like, please give us a Christmas present. Just a little teaser. Why are you making us wait? They're probably thinking, you bastard, DA.
All right. I'm kind of thinking it doesn't necessarily
and it's not
hurt.
clickbaity, people. It's not clickbaity. But we
I
all
kinda-
know
I-
that,
And I feel
That's not
bad
what
because
we're doing here.
I almost feel like when I say this, people won't understand the importance of this. All right, Joe, you said you wanted me to give you an opportunity to say something ahead of time. I'm thinking I'm going to tell them, I'm going to tease them, not tease them. I'm going to tell them what I've got 90% receipts on and how I'm going to get it 100% confirmed. I have no reason to believe it's not going to be 100% confirmed, but you wanted to talk about it first. What do you got?
Yeah. Okay. So as I said, while we were driving all over Idaho, one of the major topics and threads that we talked about, probably more than any other, while we were there, was Brent Kopacka. We went on. I mean, we got into very long discussions about Brent Kopacka, what we believed about his potential connection to the Idaho 4 case. And DA was really pulling on that thread, obviously, based on a lot of the legwork that he's done. And we both agreed on some reasons why his potential connection to it was being obscured and directed away from. Why the media, why the police completely avoided the topic of Brent Kopacka after he was allegedly killed in the standoff. And DA and I talked about that. I can't even stress to you guys how much we've talked about it.
Yeah.
And when DA called me today, it was very, very significant to the things that we talked about. Very specifically, the things that we talked about related to Brent Kopacka and other people closely connected to this case. So anyway, I just wanted to express to people how much this very thing was addressed, in very long conversations.
Yeah. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and give you that Christmas gift you were looking for. And I want to make sure I preface this so that you understand why it's important to me. One of the things I said was early on, I told you that I thought that there was a connection between Brian Koberger and Brent Kopacka, and no, that's not the step I'm going to prove tonight. Although I'm on a new lead for that, by the way, but it's not the step I'm going to prove tonight. What I said was, it's super weird to me that the lead detective, the lead of this entire case, was Brett Payne, and that both of them, and the first thing I said was both of them served in the 82nd Airborne, to which people came back to me and said, DA, you're an idiot. 82nd Airborne is an enormous division. It's like 30,000 soldiers, that it means nothing, and they didn't serve at the same time. And I was like, okay, I just thought it was interesting. Then later on, as I dug into, I found circumstantial evidence that said both of them not only were 82nd Airborne, but they served in the exact same combat team. And it's more precise than that. The 82nd Airborne had 3 combat teams for its entire history. but only during a specific time did they add a fourth combat team. Both of those, the rumor had it, were in the same combat team, that fourth combat team that didn't even exist until a very specific point in time. And I still had people tell me, DA, you're an idiot. These guys didn't serve together. There's no connection. Why is it important if they did? Because the lead investigator in the case could have been 82nd Airborne and served in the military with one of the lead suspects, Brent Kopacka, who people, even his best friend said, I think they thought Brent Kopacka was involved in the murder of those kids and may have been too early to shoot him because they thought he was involved. So if you have the lead detective in the case who may have served with in the same exact combat team as Brent Kopacka, it brings a lot of questions to why. When people say, why was Brett Payne put in charge of this? Why was a guy without those credentials? Why was he promoted to the lead of this particular case? Why Brett Payne of all people? Well, here's what I found out today through Freedom of Information Act. I made a mistake and I wrote a Freedom of Information Act request to the military asking for Brent Kopacka and Brett Payne, their military history, and whether there was an overlap in their terms of service. The problem I had, and this is why we're 90% or better certain that this is true, is that I was asking for historical records of which that particular agency of the military only went through 2005. So listen to this. This is super important. What they said was shocking because, and according to ChatGPT, who said that is confirmation. That is what ChatGPT called soft confirmation. They just confirmed for you what you've suspected, but they did it in a weird way. The response was, hey, look, we looked into Brett Payne. Our records only go through 2005, and we have no records about Brett Payne prior to 2005. So unfortunately, we can't give you anything. And then they added this sentence. Research, first of all, they said they did, so I'm going to read this. After a thorough review, we've determined that there are no records responsive to your request held during these collections. So and what they're saying is we only go through 2005. Then they gave me 3 bullet points. The third one is the kicker. Research indicates both of these individuals likely were assigned to the 4th Brigade Combat Team, 4th CBT, and the 82nd Airborne Division. This unit was not active until 2006, and RA Holdings only do commands that cover the subsequent period. ChatGPT says they just confirmed for you. They know the 2 of them served together in the 4th Brigade Combat Team together after 2006 when that thing was created. They were in Afghanistan together in a combat team. The lead investigator and Brent Kopacka were served in the same exact combat team that didn't exist until 2006. And that is a soft confirmation. They said our records indicate they served together in the 4th combat team that didn't exist until 2006. For all of those people who told me those 2 guys didn't serve at the same time, that is a soft confirmation. So I did get proof on how to request 100% confirmation. So I believe we will get 100% confirmation, but basically I've been told that is extremely good confirmation. They basically admitted we don't have records for them for 2005, but we do know they served together in 2006, but you'll have to go to another agency to get proof that they served together in 2006 during that time frame. And that is enormous. That is enormous to me, because you cannot tell me there's a coincidence, just a random coincidence, that a potential lead suspect in the case, Brent Kopacka, served in 82nd Airborne 4th Combat Division, a division that didn't even exist until 2006, and that these 2 guys served in the same exact combat division, may have literally have been fighting side by side when Brent Kopacka got his Purple Heart for being injured in combat. They literally could have been fighting together in Afghanistan. You tell me that's a coincidence and just a no never mind in this story. What do you guys
and
think?
You mentioned that, DA. You talked to me about that while we were driving. You said, I can't prove it, but I want to try to find out if these guys served together. And
Yeah.
I mean, the implications of it, and I'm sure most people get it. Because the question was raised when Brett Payne was made the lead investigator in this case. Why would a guy with like 3-4 years on MPD be put as the lead investigator of a quadruple homicide? There would have to be a reason for it other than oh, he was really squared away and he had his shit together, which is the explanation we all got. You know, if somebody was involved that served in the same combat division with him, could he have been put on the case for that reason? And then there's a lot of threads that can be pulled from that.
Right. And like I said, I feel like some people will miss the significance, but there's a massive significance, in my opinion. There's a massive significance because, again, I'm fair when I said, hey, look, these two guys were 82nd Airborne and served in the same combat team. That's not just a coincidence. And I let you guys, not you guys. It's rhetorical when I say you guys. I let people beat me down and say, you're an idiot, DA. 82nd Airborne's a huge company. Yeah, you don't know a goddamn thing about the military. It's a know-nothing burger. Is it a know-nothing burger? If they both served in Afghanistan at the same exact time in the same combat unit, that means they would have fought, and they would have fought side by side. So you tell me that's not a fucking coincidence? You tell me that's not a coincidence if that's the case. Now, again, I'm going to try to 100% confirm it, but this is a soft confirmation that they say our records do not find any information about them. Most likely these two individuals did serve during this time together in this brigade. And I didn't tell them that. You need to understand, I didn't tell them anything about the 4th Combat Team. I didn't tell them that. They came up with that. It looks to us like they served together in the 4th Combat Team. That was them saying it. Do you understand how important that is? They're confirming without me even telling them that I think they served together in that thing. They told me what combat team they served together in. They know. I just need to go ask the right agency to get it proof. It's huge.
And DA, you're a lot more.
That's why this is also important what we're doing. Okay, for people who just keep saying, you know, why are you bothering? Why? Well, this is why. This is why, because each little piece of the puzzle that we can put together makes the case, our case, that, oh my God, makes our case that they're all fucking lying to us that much stronger when we can say, and maybe, hopefully, we can get people to be so outraged that the public outcry is going to be too loud. That's the hope.
Yeah.
And by the way, I don't know if we still have them, but we at least have Dago with True Crime Cafe, and we have Birdie from the Hive Mind, both backstage. So, or not backstage, but in the chat. So if you guys want to come up, freaking come up, man. I wasn't going to talk about this connection, but, you know, a few drinks and a little bit of freaking loose panel. And they're like, you know what, DA, just go ahead and give people a Christmas gift. Tell them what you got. Because again, it's 90. I would say it's 90+% sure that they just confirmed. They just confirmed these two guys served together. And that's a big deal. Again, I did submit the issue request and again, all I'm asking them to do is confirm that these two guys served together at this time. And according to what I've been told, they do have to answer yes or no. Yes, they did serve together, or no, they didn't serve together. I think we're going to find out they did serve together, and that's a huge, huge red flag in this case.
And the diversion away from Kopaka as a suspect was always strange to me. You know, I always thought it was really weird. Like, a guy gets killed in a standoff who was acting bizarre and everything, like a couple of miles away shortly after the murders. I always thought that was really weird. Why wouldn't the media say, like, oh, that's really crazy, I wonder if this guy's connected to the crime? They completely steered away from that. And I don't want to talk about any of the things we talked about today, right? I don't want to. Should I steer clear of that stuff?
I don't think you need to steer clear of anything. I can't think of anything I'm too worried about. Dago, by the way, did join backstage, so we should get Dago up here as well. But did you want to go first? Or?
So I'll drop this and then I'll go refill my drink while you bring Dago up on stage. But if the military would not want the PR nightmare of a decorated combat veteran,
Purple Heart vet,
special forces combat veteran, highly decorated, to be implicated in a quadruple homicide, or even remotely connected to it. They wouldn't even want his, because if the mainstream media even touched that or any mainstream media outlet or any large content creator touch that, that would be a PR nightmare. They don't want that getting out about, because there's been a lot of political stuff about vets coming back and suicide rates and PTSD and things like that. So and I thought about that for a long, long time. They would want to steer away from that in every way possible. And what DA just found out kind of validates that whole idea that they would not want that to get out, and therefore you get a guy who was connected to maybe the same operations, likely the exact same operations, to be close to it. And
and so before I bring Dago up, I want to say this about Dago. A couple of people asked, they said, look, you should reach out to Dago because Dago knows a thing or two about the Kopaka thing, and he's got some opinions about it. You need to talk to him. And I did reach out to Dago earlier today and said, hey, I really got some big information. I want to see what you've said about, or what you've learned about Kopaka. And unfortunately, we didn't have a chance to make those things. Now, I will say this. Here's what's great about Dago. It's what I love about the guy. If I'm wrong about something, or if I'm barking up the wrong tree, he will say it respectfully. That's what I love about the guy. He doesn't put people in their place and go, you're an idiot. He will say, hey, look, you're a little off on this, and here's why. So I cannot wait. I'm going to bring Dago up now. We're going to hear what he has to say. Am I barking up the wrong tree? Do we have some things? Let's see what Dago has to say about this information. I can't wait to get him on screen and see what happens. Dago, what's up, man?
Good evening.
Good evening.
How are you guys?
Good evening.
We're great. We're on fire tonight. How you doing?
I am doing great, sir. I hope I didn't run Joe off. He disappeared when I popped up.
He's refilling his drink.
Okay, good. Good to be here. I'm sorry, Lee. I sent you I left a message in the chat. I didn't get to get back to you. It's been a crazy night all night, so I'm so sorry about that, sir.
No worries.
But I just caught the tail end of what you're talking about, and I'm quite interested.
Yeah. So do you want me to summarize what I found out today, or no?
If you don't mind, please, because I want to hear the beginning with what I heard the end of. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I had put in a Freedom of Information Act request from the military, the Army, asking for history on Brent Kopaka and Brett Payne, and whether or not the two of them ever served alongside each other in the military. The problem is that I had served that FOIA request to kind of a historical records area, which their records only go up through 2005. So their response to me was, hey, look, we've done an exhaustive research into the connection of these two guys, these two soldiers, and have not found anything prior to 2005. However, the key thing they said to me was, our research indicates both individuals likely were assigned to the 4th Brigade Combat Team, 4th CBT, 82nd Airborne Division. This was not active until 2006, and our holdings for higher commands do not cover that subsequent period. So according to what I've been, I ran that through ChatGPT, and they said, look, that is really, really good confirmation. They know the two guys served together in the 4th Combat Team, which didn't even exist until 2006. So it's a soft confirmation they did serve together in the 4th Combat Team after 2006, which to me is enormous. Now, I put 2 new FOIA requests out today to confirm with the right agency this time that they did overlap and serve together. And I believe that the answer will be 100% correct, but this is what we got so far.
Very interesting, because we thought about that before too when we found out. I have a friend that's 82nd Airborne, Airborne Ranger, blah, blah, blah. He was served on the fire department with me. And I've been trying to reach out to this guy for a year to get a hold of him to ask him about that specific thing, because we all wondered. And as well as Payne's brother served as well. Yeah. And there was a statement made 3 years ago or so, roughly right around when the Payne thing became a big deal, the Kopaka thing became a big deal. That Chief Fry was very well versed on Kopaka for some odd reason.
Yeah.
We wanted to know why Chief Fry knew Kopaka so well. And the only thing that I could get out of that was that I don't think it was a true statement, was that because of previous interactions that made no sense to me. So knowing that Payne was part of the police force, that Payne and Fry were somewhat close. They're hunting buddies. They do things together, so on and so forth. I kind of was, 1 + 1 = 2 in a sense in my mind with that situation. Sorry, guys, I'm cold, so I'm a little shivery.
No, and I think you're onto something, because one of the first things I said is the reason why many people questioned, why did Brett Payne get assigned lead detective when he'd only been with the department for like a couple of years, right? Why did he get assigned lead detective on this case? Why? And it could be because the primary suspect was an 82nd Airborne Army Ranger that he served with, and he would know more about that guy than anybody. So that would make a reason why he was put in charge. One could also argue that he's put in charge for damage control, to make sure that you shape the narrative so that that soldier doesn't get besmirched and the reputation of the military doesn't go down the shitter. All of those things could lead to what happened there. Brett Payne, by the way, we got Birdie Bombshells backstage as well. Do you mind if I bring Birdie up as well?
Good deal. Birdie's awesome.
Yeah.
Birdie. No, and another thing is too. What's up, Birdie boy? How you doing, bro?
I'm doing good. How are you guys doing?
Good, man.
Good evening. Good evening.
Good, bro.
I would have been on a little bit earlier, but I accidentally gave my wife the worst titty twister of her life, and that sounds like a joke. I wish it was a joke, DA. I had to just literally beg for forgiveness and say, babe, I thought that was your pocket on your pajamas. I'm so sorry.
I hope you got a comfortable couch, bro. Jesus Christ.
Oh yeah, well, yep. But no, you guys think I was joking. I'm not. That's
beautiful. It just brings tears to the eyes.
But that's
yes. Real quick to add one more thing too. That all brings me back. That's why I was thinking about the same thing, Lee, because we also had Brett Payne, Chief Fry, Gunderson, I think Blaker were all at the scene for the Kopacka situation. Okay. And I always wondered, I mean, I understand they share circumstances and they share priorities and so on and so forth, but why specifically those people that were brought over to that situation is all I want.
So wait, I need you to repeat that again. Who have you confirmed from Moscow was at the Brent Kopacka shooting?
From what we found out, it was in one of my, I see a bunch of my mods that are in here right now with us. If I'm wrong, please correct me. It was Chief Fry, Brett Payne, Gunderson, and Blaker, I do believe, were the ones that were at scene when the Kopacka situation went down.
Holy shit.
Wow.
That's all I can tell you. That's all we could find out. And this was years ago, obviously.
Look, I'll tell you this real quick for those who don't know. I'm weeks into submitting the paperwork from Pullman, WSU, and Whitman County Sheriff's Department on the shooting of Brent Lee Kopacka for all of their documents. So that should come out and get confirmed on what officers were there from MPD, so I'm super excited. We're already weeks ahead on getting that information.
Why would you need them there? If you got SWAT there, you have your own PD there. What the hell do you need to bring somebody from a completely different city over for, especially high-ranking officers like that, in my opinion?
Right.
Something stinks.
I
see smoke coming off your head, Birdie. You got a thought. I can see it.
Well, I was just going to ask one. Is there ever a time that you've experienced that where, because even and I was talking to DA on the phone about, I'm rereading James Patterson's book, but he talks about how Chief Fry called or got a call from Jenkins right away. Hey, do you need help? And I know they're 8 miles away, whatever it is. But my whole point is is that normal? Especially when it's like state lines. I feel like within the city, if it's a district, that's a little bit different, but state lines seems a little bit bigger, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not a normal occurrence. Within within the state, within the city, or like a nearby county, absolutely stuff like that happens all the time. Like where I live, I live on Long Island. We have Nassau County and Suffolk County. Now, obviously, they're much smaller departments than NYPD. If they had, some kind of hostage situation or some kind of big thing going on, at NYPD, they help all the time to neighboring stuff. But
let me add to that too. 1-1. I want to ask, since you are here I've been on multiple scenes. I've been on hostage scenes. I've been on shootings.
Yeah.
I've been on all that stuff. Okay. Mutual aid is a thing. What we do around here, local PD will call in the county and the state before they call in another complete city over state lines, is what I'm saying.
Right.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
So that's something that I caught, like, what the hell is going on? Especially the officers, the chief and the lead detective on another case is just, it's odd to me, is all I'm saying.
It is.
So you finding that, Lee, is very interesting to me. And it takes me back to a place that I've been wanting to go back to for a while. I'll just put it that way.
Well, you know, guys, one of the things that I think about when you guys talk about that is the grant that WSU had for the off-campus crime thing.
Right.
I've been saying that for the longest time. Like, it's so, all these crazy coincidences. Are they coincidences? I mean, it's like, you know, he's a teaching assistant, PhD student who comes from Pennsylvania, you know, and I always bring this up. People probably sick of hearing me say it, but could Kohberger have been brought in as part of that grant to be working directly with that research project? And
let me real quick address this question. Reality says, DA, did you say they made a special division just for them or something? Let me clarify that. The 82nd Airborne has had 3 combat teams, combat team 1, 2, and 3, for its history, except they added a 4th combat team in 2006. So it was CBT number 4, which didn't exist in its history until 2006. That was created in 2006, and it appears both Brett Payne and Brent Kopacka served in that same 4th CBT at a division, a combat team that did not exist until 2006. Now, I will not go as far as to say, which are kind of the way you worded it, did they make that special team just for them? No, I'm not saying that at all. But what I'm saying is that team didn't even exist until 2006, and apparently both of them served in it, which means that they would have fought right alongside each other in combat, in my opinion.
And I'm gonna, if you don't mind me saying, SRB, a lot of you guys know who SRB is. She's one of my mods. She's been around forever. Her husband was 82nd Airborne. So I have some questions I'm going to be asking her tomorrow too, in regards to that. And he answers questions for us all the time. So that'll be no big deal.
You know, and originally, you know, people said 82nd Airborne is really big. So the two criticism I got when I started to say, isn't it weird that both of these guys served in the 82nd Airborne? The first criticism was, you're an idiot. 82nd Airborne's enormous. Okay, great. Second was, you're an idiot. They didn't serve together at the same time. They were completely different periods of time. But now the new document says it is more than likely these two served together in 2006 or after 2006 because they were both in the same combat division or team that didn't exist until 2006. So it means they had to have served together because they both served in that same team.
Exactly.
Dude, I think two things. One, I think that it's extremely validating, I would guess, for yourself. You theorized that, and now you have the paperwork that's showing you that. So kudos to you, man. That's great work. The other thing that I might be doing for the first time in my YouTube career is trying to provide a little bit of logic when it comes to.
Is that the first time, Bernie, you're going to use logic?
Right. But on a real note, right, we're talking about Kopacka and Payne and that connection. But if we'd have to assume that something was in place. So to JJ, your point about the funding, I've talked about that too. It would have to be in place prior to Kopacka's death, that Payne would be understanding that this went down, right? And that whole interaction, because that was, the standoff was on December 15th. Yes, December 15th. That sounds right. And so, I mean, that's over a month later. So the sheath was found by then, right? They're 2 weeks from finding Kohberger. So we would have to assume at that point, if Payne got handed that investigation, there's absolutely inside information then, which would be bombshell, right? But logically, it doesn't make sense because it's 2 weeks before Kohberger was technically arrested. So the cover-up must have been in place prior to the crime or right after the crime, which, don't get me wrong, you guys know me, I'll get off on that type of stuff. But I'm just saying, just to keep that in mind for everybody.
Oh, don't forget that Koberger lived within viewing distance of Kopaka too. So there's that. Sorry to interrupt.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. Joe and I drove there. It's a stone's throw. You could throw a rock if you have a good arm. You can hit where Kopaka and Koberger was from each other's place. They were right next. Now, granted, I got too many thoughts in my head right now. Granted, Kopaka in June listed on a body cam footage with officers questioning him about a moment when he said, "Hey, look, I'm paranoid. Somebody's trying to kill me, whatever." He said, "My address is such and such at Pimlico Apartments." Oddly enough, Kopaka couldn't tell them what number of unit he lived in at Pimlico Apartments, but he did list the Pimlico Apartments. That would put him right next door to Koberger, right next door.
Exactly. Now, like almost like
Stone's.
You guys remember? There was a statement made about a witness that lived in Brian's building. He defined it differently, but it doesn't mean that it's wrong. Okay. About Brian seeing, the only person he ever saw Brian interacting with was a guy sitting on the steps having a discussion. It seemed kind of heated. There was a motorcycle there, so on and so forth.
I remember this.
I haven't been able to verify or clarify. I heard rumors that Brett owned a motorcycle. I don't know that that's true, and if it's not, it's not. It's no big deal. It doesn't mean anything. That doesn't mean that guy still couldn't have been him, is all I'm saying.
Right.
Right.
If the two of them had any kind of a relationship whatsoever, they could have been talking about something, arguing about something, so on and so forth. That brings them together. That's all I'm saying.
That makes a lot of sense to me.
And let me back up a little bit too. Like, again, I got a million thoughts. I don't want to lose the connection about why I think Brett Payne was put in charge of this investigation. But again, Kopaka said on body camera footage in June that he lived at the Pimlico Apartments. However, he was shot and killed at the Coffee House Apartments, which is on the opposite side of town. I mean, literally the opposite side of town. Pimlico Apartments is in the north side of town, and the Coffee House is in the south side of town. But here's the thing: if anybody has watched that video of the standoff with Kopaka at the Coffee House Apartments, there's no fucking furniture in that apartment. Like nothing. It's
same with Koberger's, dude. Same with Koberger's in a way.
Right.
Koberger didn't have much either. And nobody can prove that Kopaka's roommates even lived in that fucking house.
Right. Which is why
I tried it every which way I could go. There's no proof. Sorry,
and
Rob,
I got something for you guys that DA and I have discussed. I don't know if any of you guys have been onto this, but they apparently, and this is just through some AI searches and whatnot, there was a Brent Kopaka who worked for SEL, the government contractor electrical engineering firm that was literally right behind the Pimlico Apartments where DA and I filmed when we were there. And he was also a professor at WSU. A guy named Brent Kopaka. And so we were thinking, he does not work there now. He did work at SEL, Schweitzer Electronics Laboratories.
Let me clarify. The Brent Kopaka Joe's talking about that worked at SEL as an engineer had like a 20-year age difference, right? Because the date of birth was 20 years off. So I want to be clear. People don't believe that we're saying that Brent Lee Kopaka worked at SEL. This was a Brent Kopaka that had a different date of birth, like 20 years prior, like a father or an uncle or something like that.
So what we kind of theorized was, because we always wondered, how did Kopaka even end up there? Like, why was he there? He was he wasn't a college age dude. Where was he working? What was he doing? At first I thought, did he work for SEL? Because it's literally right behind the Pimlico Apartments on a hillside right behind there. And then, so I searched it. And then I started thinking, were they related? And that's how he ended up going to Pullman, because an uncle or a cousin or whatever was working there. And was he working for SEL in any capacity? Hence the reason why a guy who's not a student was living in essentially, off-campus housing for the college. But I thought that was pretty wild, because I searched it multiple times. I even sent DA the screenshot of the search that I came up with the information about the guy who was also a professor at WSU.
Well,
yeah, and I want real quick before you guys get too far. People were asking, "Well, is Brent Kopacka this other Brent Kopacka's father?" And Amanda pointed out the same thing I knew already as well, which is that Brent Kopacka's parents are listed as Darcy Nixon and David Nixon and John Kopacka. So I agree. Like the Brent Kopacka as a father doesn't seem likely when you look up public records, but could it be an uncle? Could it be, or is it just a weird like anomaly and there's no, it's just somebody that happens to have the name Brent Kopacka? That would be fucking weird.
Why?
But
Why are there so many
case,
people in this case that have the same name?
It's always right.
Right.
But he's right
it's
behind.
possible.
They, like literally, it's this
he lives right next
SEL
to
place
SEL.
is
Yeah.
directly behind the Pimlico Apartments. I said, DA, what's that building? Let's go check that out. And that's when we drove over there and we saw like, it was like Schweitzer electronics or engineering laboratories.
Engineering labs.
Yeah.
I still wish I could have got to go with you guys.
I
One thing that
know.
I was just going to say, JJ, is you brought up the funding like 2 or 3 minutes ago, 5 minutes ago. And if you were to connect Payne and then Kopacka and Kohberger even, we're trying to find this link. If it was the funding, we would never be able to track familial history, why they would go out if they really just went out there for funding, right? We can maybe track back Kohberger to Ramsland. There's a Reddit post that I have screenshotted, or 4chan post, again, speculative, but people in Kopacka's unit were saying that he was going to go work for the FBI. They would never have seen him do this. I see Dago shaking his head. And my question is, and I called DA last night at midnight. Actually, I think it was 12:30 my time, because I got an email from somebody. And I just said, what if it is very simple and very logical from a standpoint of who's to say that Kopacka wasn't dating a professor that Brian Kohberger knew, or didn't go on a date with somebody, and there's some overlap, very human-like type of interaction. We would probably never know. Right. I think back to all of us, if we were younger and dating, right? We don't necessarily know everybody's friend group who was in their lives at that point. If you just went on 5 dates, 6 dates, whatever it is, for 2 months, right? We don't know. But
yeah.
I thought that was a really good take by whoever sent me that email. And
a good point.
Close,
very good point.
Right? Like it could be something like that we'll never know, because I'm sure that there are things that even the people involved don't know, right? They don't know their friends.
I've said it before. I know, by the way, somebody mentioned is there any connection between Kopacka and Kennewick, and that's kind of like a hometown kind of thing. The Tri-Cities, Richland, Pasco, Kennewick is where I came from. So when I saw Kennewick, I had to do a shout out for Kennewick real quick. But one of the things I said was, is that I felt like Kopacka and Kohberger knew each other. And I think that because I think, again, Kopacka's family comes from Pennsylvania. Darcy Nixon comes from Pennsylvania. She had a house within an hour and a half of the Kohbergers in Pennsylvania. Again, it's all circumstantial, but Kopacka and his friends were into horror movies. Brian Kohberger's sister was in a horror movie 2 days back. Did they meet on set? Were they obsessed with the horror films? Did they meet the Kohbergers because of that connection to the horror film? Because they were into horror films? I know that sounds super speculative, but
not really though.
If these two guys knew each other from Pennsylvania and ended up in Pullman within a block of each other, literally a stone's throw from each other, literally, like that's how close they were, then if it was true that Brent Kopacka was a lead suspect in the Idaho 4 murders, and Brett Payne was put in charge of the investigation, and if Brent Kopacka gets shot and killed by accident or overzealous policing or whatever you want to call it, did they just simply shift to the person that was closest to him, which was Brian Kohberger, and went, well, fuck it, we'll go for this guy. It's the closest guy that we got to him. They're friends, they're buddies. Maybe they were in on it together, and they just became is there any part of the narrative that says that it could have been as simple as that? They were watching Kopacka got killed, and they went, well, he's friends with this guy from Pennsylvania that came out, Kohberger. Maybe he was involved, and they just shifted the narrative to that guy.
I want to. Sorry. Go ahead.
No,
go ahead.
Dago, you go, or whoever. Yep.
I was just going to throw something in.
I was just going to say, this is interesting.
Go ahead, Rob.
SEL controls the infrastructure, I wonder if it can turn off stoplights, cameras, so forth and so on.
They do power grid stuff, I believe. So I don't know.
They do. They do.
And would it be unrealistic to think that you wouldn't have a contract for the only other university within 10 miles of you?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and by the way, we've mentioned this before, and I'm not saying I'm making a connection, but SEL, by the way, when I think Joe might have been the one that did the research. SEL likes to employ former military. That's in there.
We were doing that.
They actually like to employ former military. So Brent Kopacka, being former military, might have been the kind of person that would have a job at SEL or be recruited by SEL.
Well,
because
there was a rumor early on. I think it was the first week the first time Kopacka got thrown into the mix. It's a rumor because we could never prove it, that he worked for the college doing something to do with
IT
or security.
IT,
yeah.
Right. So security, right. Which is not the point I was going to make, but I just wanted to throw that in there. But when you went backwards a little bit, Lee, with what you said, in the Patterson book, there's a chapter in there that talks about when Brian's dad, Michael, goes to the pharmacy.
Yes.
He's talking to the pharmacist, or I'm sorry, not the pharmacist. That was the other story. But he's talking to Brian's best friend's mother, who was one of Brian's teachers and one of my friend Willie's teachers as well. And says that she says, I can't remember exact words, but I'll get to the point. She says, it's good to see you. So I'm sorry what's going on with Brian. He's like, I'm so sorry what happened with Jeremy, so on and so forth. And he says, Brian didn't do this. I can't think of her name right now, but it's Jeremy's mother. That's what I know. Brian's best friend. They did drugs together back in the day when Brian had his drug issue. They were really close friends all through school. And again, she was the teacher to Brian. And he says, Brian didn't do this. She says, I know, not the Brian I know wouldn't do this. Okay. And she says, does he know about Jeremy? And Michael says, quote unquote, he does know. We couldn't tell him when it happened because he went away for a while. We don't know where, but he was gone for a while. And when he got back, then we were able to tell him. And I immediately, it just like, where do you go off for a while that you don't tell your parents? Nobody knows where you're at. You're gone for a few months and then you come back.
I know.
Yeah.
Okay.
You get on a fast track. Look at his schooling, dude.
Exactly.
Look at his schooling. He's on a fast track to do everything that people may suspect he's doing right now. I had I think I've said this on your show, Dago, or when we streamed, but I had that Scott Payne dude who was on Rogan.
Yeah.
He came on, he was undercover in the not the Hells Angels, the other biker gang. But he talked about how when there was the Outlaws, and when there was murder for hire hits, they would fake the death and make it look real. They would go to these people. They would say, we have one chance. You can play ball. Mm-hmm. Because a lot of the times the people that put the hit out said, I want a tattoo on her low back. I want to see what color her nails are.
Mm-hmm.
And they would make it look real, send the picture, get the money, and then go arrest them. I'm not saying that's what happened here. But one of the common themes that I'm understanding amongst all of us talking, speculating clearly, is there is an X factor that would unlock all of these theories. And that X factor is either how Kohberger and Kohberger and Kopacka are connected to each other, to 1122, both to WSU. There's something that's missing that I have to think is rather large.
I want to go back. I don't know if Dago has heard. I don't know if Dago has heard this, so I want to go back to something. I believe, and I haven't been able to prove it 100%. Again, let me reiterate this. Darcy Nixon owned a house in Pennsylvania an hour and a half from the Kohbergers. That's true.
Yes.
Darcy Nixon owned that house at the time that Brent Kopacka, her son, would have gotten out of the military. Mm-hmm. Is it illogical to think that a son just out of the military, just gotten released, getting his feet back on his ground, might go back to mom's place and hang out there, and could have ended up in Pennsylvania? And why we don't have proof that he was there, guess what? Darcy Nixon lists her son, Brent Kopacka's email address as her email address. On public records, her email address has come up as Brent Lee Kopacka associated with Darcy Nixon. So I think they lived together. So that would put, it's circumstantial, but it would put Kopacka in Pennsylvania. Why is this important? Because Othram Labs said, listen, Othram Labs said, we developed a profile to 4 brothers in Pennsylvania. Brent Kopacka has 3 brothers. That would be the 4 brothers in my logic. That's the 4 brothers in Pennsylvania that they led Othram Labs to. It wasn't Kohberger. None of those names, none of the 4 brothers were Kohberger. They tried to get those brothers to submit their DNA, and the brothers told them to go fuck off. They wouldn't give them their DNA sample. That was, in my opinion, my best guess. My best guess is Othram Labs developed the DNA off the sheath to Kopacka's 4 brothers, Kopacka and his 3 brothers. And then what they did was they did a really tricky wording. What they said was, we went up the family tree from that DNA profile and then moved over and back down the family tree to get to Kohberger. So what they knew was it was a Pennsylvania connection. They knew it was Kopacka and his brothers, in my opinion, and they just moved up far enough because all of us at some point have a common ancestry, right? So you go far enough up the family tree and you're going to find somebody who's married to somebody and you can work back down the tree. They already knew they wanted Kohberger. So all they did is they took the sample that was Kopacka and his brothers, in my opinion, I can't prove any of this, moved up the family tree until they could move over and back down to Kohberger, and then told everyone in America, hey, look, we found a connection to them. We did some machinations. We moved up the family tree over and back down and got to Kohberger. That's how they did it, in my opinion, because they knew the guys came from Pennsylvania. They had the 4 brothers of Kopacka, and they just moved up and moved it over until they could get back down to Kohberger, and just didn't want to show the math. They didn't want to show you how they got there.
Can I ask, and I'm not being facetious, a devil's advocate question, because I know you'll appreciate this, genuinely. What would make somebody, if you had an older brother, a middle brother, youngest brother, what would make all 3 of you go kill for them?
The brothers of Kopacka, you mean?
Well, I'm saying if it, like, 4 brothers, like DNA, right? It came back to 4 of the brothers. I'm not saying that those 4 were involved, but I'm saying, hypothetically, right? What would make you go do that? What would make you kill somebody if you weren't involved in a drug gang? It would have to be what?
Your family or your money.
Yeah,
crime of passion. Crime of passion.
Right.
Yeah.
A threat.
Right.
After that, I think, like, a threat to your family. After that, it gets kind of grim.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's so much shit that's covered up about everything about the girls in the house, because that's largely what we've heard about. It was more so the girls and Ethan, let's be honest, has been whitewashed, right, in the media, right? They're angels, they're these kids, everybody loved them, et cetera, et cetera. That's a really small area there, man. I've said it a bunch of times. I couldn't believe how close together everything was, WSU and U of I. So there's Kopacka was probably hanging out at the same bars that the girls were, right? So it something that I believe is relevant as far as Kopacka is concerned is that if he could have been somehow acquainted with the girls, right? From going to the bars, they're young girls, they're good looking, they're friendly, everybody knows them, right? He's a dude, he's living not far away from the school. He's probably hanging out at the same bars that they go to. If he was somehow involved, it would be logical that the military would not want him to be connected to a quadruple homicide. They would not want that to get out. A decorated veteran is in any way, even if it was peripherally involved, they wouldn't want it to get out.
And along the same lines that you're saying, Joe, about, well, maybe he hung out at the bars at Kopacka. The same thing I said. Kopacka and Brett Payne, if they were both in the 82nd Airborne, same 4th Combat Division, what's the likelihood that they could have met at the local VFW? Like, you have cheap drink night for the VFW. They're both vets. They both served in the same thing. They could have met through that connection, or maybe they already knew each other before that connection. But it's not completely at all illogical to think these 2 guys ran into each other at a VFW and having drinks together. And then, like, hey, you served in the 82nd Airborne 4th Combat Division. So did I. So there could be a connection there. And again, there was part of me, and I just want to say this before I forget, because I was going to make this way earlier tonight. Part of me that thought the reason why Brett Payne might, and I know people dismiss this, I'm just going to say it anyways. I did look up the training of 82nd Airborne, and the paratroopers specifically are trained in like 2 weeks of knife fighting skills, knife fighting. And I even went through the book on one of my long form videos showing what they're trained to do. Things like rushing the opponent, slamming them against the wall, cutting arteries to kill quickly. They're trained in those things for a period of time in 82nd Airborne as part of the paratrooper thing, as part of their regiment. They have weeks of training on knife fighting. So could it have been, even if they didn't know each other, could it have been when they saw the crime and they realized somebody knew how to work a knife? Because somebody just fucked up 4 people with a knife, and there's indications that they took out arteries. This is somebody trained with knife, right? Did they go to the nearest guy at Moscow Police Department who was trained in knife fighting and said, "Dude, you know more about knife fighting than anybody here. We're going to put you in lead of this thing because you know knife fighting, right? You've been trained in it. This guy knows knife fighting." And then maybe Brett Payne was like, "Yeah, I recognize that kind of shit. We're trained to kill that way. Like I recognize the signature of how to kill that way. This is somebody trained with knife fighting." Could it have been something as simple as that?
I mean, I would argue that 2 guys who served in the same combat division at the same exact time, probably, you know, we don't know that for 100% yet. They probably knew each other, man. These guys are, that's not like just a regular Army kind of service. These guys are in like a pretty elite unit together. The chances of them both ending up in the Pacific Northwest, especially considering Kopacka's from Pennsylvania, you know, is, in my opinion, highly unlikely that they just ended up there by accident.
Yeah.
So let me.
Well, they're not Boy Scouts, guys. They're warriors.
They're
going to know each other.
Exactly.
Yeah, they were both trained to jump behind enemy lines. That's what they're trained for, is jumping behind enemy lines. Let me point out another thing real quick. And I didn't get, and this may be a stretch. I'm going to say it right now. This may be a stretch. But what I do know is Brent Kopacka was trained as a, what do they call it? His role, his MOS, or whatever they call it, his actual, what he was trained to do was armor bearer. So he was designed to carry ammunition for like a heavy machine gun or like a 50 cal or whatever. So is it completely a stretch that maybe even Kopacka was an armor bearer for fucking Payne? Like maybe they were buddies. Like, and again, that may be a complete stretch, but they're in the same combat team. And Kopacka was trained as an armor bearer. He also would have been, by the way, as an armor bearer. They are trained to fight with those weapons as well, especially if the guy that you're carrying weapons for and armor for falls. You got to pick up the weapon and fight with it. So they're trained in the same exact things. But could they have been partnered up? Is it even possible?
There's no reason why they wouldn't have been. You can be from completely different sides of the world when you end up in these specialty units put into a position in that. Like, we got people coming in from all over the place. Absolutely, Lee. Absolutely, 100%.
I agree. Can we get nuts, DA, right now?
Feel free. Yeah, go for it.
It's Friday night, man.
Right.
Nuts,
I don't have any bush lights. I wish I had some. But seriously, though, if we're going to go crazy, I think one of the darkest theories is, what if Payne did something overseas and Kopacka threatened to expose him? This goes down. Brett Payne is now seeing an opportunity to take out and frame his friend, maybe stalk him down, make him think he's going crazy. You shoot him, whatever it may be. You find a professor you used to bang back in the day. You're a Moscow cop. You might know some WSU baddies. I don't know. Like, I'm saying, there's a real life aspect to a lot of this stuff that we think we're going to see on paper. We're not. Like,
well, that's
obviously so speculative, though. Obviously,
it makes you wonder, though. That's interesting, Bertie, because it makes you wonder that when Brett's brother goes to the apartment to pick up what was left of Brett's stuff, all that they found, there was nothing in there except for the bed and his DDI 1413, whatever. I'm sorry if it's wrong. Paper was laying on the bed. There's a little bit of blood around there, splattered on something, I guess. And its bones laying on the counter, completely wiped clean.
Yeah. Yes.
That to me you're covering something up right there.
Oh, yeah.
Okay? I think that's a message and a cover up laid in together, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Dago, I'm glad you said that because yes, Brant Kopaka's best friend, allegedly, Darren Duncan said, when we went to his apartment, it was super fucking weird because there was no furniture there, not even a bed, not a dresser, no nothing. All that was there was a broken safe, his discharge papers from the military, and a few broken electronics. And on the kitchen counter, his phone had been factory wiped. And the guy, what's his face that was interviewing him said, well, that's fucking weird. And he's like, it's super fucking weird. Like, why is his phone wiped? Well, because listen to this. I've said it before. What if Kopaka was at the house hours before Koberger arrived and literally texted Koberger and said, hey, can you come pick me up at 1122 King Road Residence? And they factory wiped his phone to hide that connection between Koberger and Kopaka because they wanted to blame it all on Kopaka 100% by himself and not have to explain the connection to a vet, a Purple Heart vet. So they just wiped the vet's phone so that there would be no connection between the two because he texted Koberger and said, pick me up at 1122 King.
And you know what? Going along with that, sorry, Bertie, go ahead, bud.
It'll take 2 seconds. I was just going to say, we have to remember too that their military overlap, that doesn't mean friendship, right? That could just mean recognition. Right. It could mean teammate. It could mean they're aware they're in the area. It doesn't mean that Payne and Kopaka, right? So I think that's just an important part to not acknowledge in all this. But to your point, and I'm assuming, Dago, where you're going to go with that, I'll let you finish your thought. I'm going to most likely, I'll let you say it, but I would guess that where I was going to go is I'll echo exactly what you're going to say.
What I was going to say is if he was asking him to pick him up, it could have went the other way too, Lee, since they lived within stone's throw of a distance. If he gave him, if Koberger gave Kopaka a ride to 1122 per se, they're swearing up and down they got Koberger because he bought a knife on Amazon. If Brian kept that knife in his car for protection because he was on the other side of the country, had no idea where he was, what would be so hard about Kopaka grabbing that knife and walking away with it? And then that explains the connection with the knife and everything else.
Dude.
Well, and Dago, like I said before, if they were friends and if Kopaka, and again, I want to be clear. I don't want to tell people that I think Kopaka is the killer because I don't know that. I'm just asking. But if they were friends, and Kopaka was ever in his car with that knife, the air conditioning could literally blow a skin cell onto that knife sheath, and Koberger's DNA would be at the crime scene
100%.
because of just because it was cold and the heater was on, and the air blew a skin cell off of Koberger onto that knife sheath. That could literally be the explanation of how Koberger's single source DNA got there, despite the fact that maybe that was planted in the first place. But if it wasn't, it could have just been that literally he was in the car and the heater was on and it blew a fucking skin cell.
Right.
We shed like 30,000 skin cells every minute. So
well, you guys, I blame this on Birdie if I go off the rails because he said let's get wild,
let's get nuts, baby.
Okay. One of the things that special operations guys do, they do contract work, right? When they get out of the military, they do CIA contracting, they do independent contracting for security firms and like Blackwater was and things like that, right? So it's not a far stretch to imagine that Kopaka did some contract work. That's how you make money when you're a special forces guy, when you get out of the military. You're a trained killer, you're great in super high pressure, intense situations. So I tend to lean towards the idea that Kopaka, if he was involved at all, it was in some capacity with a federal operation. I tend to lean towards that, and that Koberger, it could potentially be working. He was working to become a high level criminology guy. He wasn't trying to be a city cop or anything like that. He was trying to either become a Fed or a profiler or something like that. I think there's a good possibility that someone in that house knew things that people didn't want to get out. And it's not the craziest thing to imagine that Kopaka was involved because there was a federal operation level, like a higher level operation in that area, and that Koberger may have been connected to it in some way. And I know it sounds crazy and it sounds like really far fetched, man. But when you start getting at that
Right.
level, the government level, the intelligence level, drug trafficking level, which is a long and storied history of the CIA being involved in trafficking in the United States, then you start getting into black ops, which you don't want the public to find out about, things like that. DA and I have talked about this. Could Kopaka have been involved in something and he was burned because he had PTSD and maybe they were concerned that he was a risk?
Well,
and that's why he was taken out.
Well, add in real quick, Joe. We had Homeland Security. I said this before. We had Moscow, which I believe did absolutely nothing except set the scene for everything. ISP, Homeland Security, the Marshal's Office, Secret Service. You have so many agencies. Every letter of the alphabet is involved in this. I've never seen that before either. So add that into that mix is all I'm saying.
And sorry, DA, just real quick. I'm not trying to take over. I just want to go to what JJ said with the funding. It sounds crazy until you look into it. When you really read word for word what the description of these fundings are, it doesn't sound that crazy that to what you found today, DA. Brett Payne and Kopaka, same military unit, same combat unit. Assume. Is it crazy to think that Brian Koberger, who also lives a stone's throw away from Kopaka, somehow, by being a PhD criminology student, if he was brought in by federal funding, wouldn't be somehow in a similar tight-knit circle of older aged, quote unquote, college kids, right? You're 27 to 33-year-old dudes. You're not the underage to 22-year-old party goers necessarily. You're a PhD. You're an ex-combat veteran. You're now working as a lead detective. Like, I don't think that socially is hard to wrap your head around. They may have known each other all living near WSU.
Why else would Kopaka be living with a bunch of college kids around him?
Right,
I mean,
right.
That's weird in itself.
So real quick, I feel bad because I'm leaving Robin and 1-1 out of the conversation for so long. And here's what's great. If I can pull this off with my shred of sobriety left, I'm going to try to bring 1-1 into this. And here's where it is. Okay. So sorry. It's Friday night. It's Friday night. So here's the thing. I asked 1-1. I asked 1-1 one time. I said, how much control could the lead detective have over the evidence in a case? Could he, if that person, can that person affect a lot of the investigation and hide stuff?
Absolutely.
And he said, absolutely, absolutely. So you have to ask yourself, if Brent Kopaka, and maybe this is a stretch for some of you, if Brent Kopaka was formerly in the military, which we know he was, and he was in the 82nd Airborne as a paratrooper dropping behind enemy lines, as we know he was, he more than likely had top security clearance at one point in his life. I can tell you this, having been I have been in the intelligence industry myself. I've had an SCI clearance, a secret compartmentalized SCI level clearance. I know how this works. If you've been cleared before, you can be fast tracked to be cleared again. So even if Brett Payne had lost his clearance because he left the military, if there was any involvement in the government and Brent Kopaka and military and it was a classified operation, they could quickly clear Payne, who has been previously cleared with a clearance, to give him top secret clearance. And therefore they could bring him in really quickly to help control the narrative at Moscow Police Department.
Show me what else he did, Lee. What else did he do, Lee? One thing that Payne did in the investigation.
Payne, I could tell you one thing. He definitely, well, he did that, whatever you call it, ride along, not a ride along, but he's the one that basically is accounting for Rosie and Tisdale, and he's putting out a whole bunch of
what else did he do in the investigation to do of any to be of any help? You put him on a stand, he don't know nothing. You do this, he don't know.
Oh yeah, he was his name is not even right. He was
there to control the narrative.
Right. He was like the spokes guy for the thing.
Right.
Like
Exactly.
the name on most of the evidence and stuff is Baker. It's not Payne.
He did nothing else.
Yeah.
Nothing else. He did nothing else that we could find. I did one show on it. I'm like, the lead detective, huh? He did this. Lead detective, huh? He did that. Lead detective, huh? He did nothing.
And I'm telling you, listen, from my perspective in the intelligence community, here's how it would work. Only Brett Payne would be allowed in a top secret discussion for them to explain what's going on. And then he would go back and control the narrative at MPD. Yep. So it's very possible. Again, we have to be careful. I'm not accusing anybody of doing anything. What I'm saying is, from what I understand of that world, because I worked in that world, is he could have been cleared to have top secret conversations. He could have been brought into a top secret facility to talk about things, and then he was given, marching orders. Go make sure that the evidence doesn't lead to Brent Kopacka's involvement in this. Anything you need to do to make sure you shift this away, make sure it doesn't go back to Brent Kopacka. National security interest. We can't have it come back to Kopacka.
Right.
I want to say one last thing just to tack on to this little line of discussion we're having. If there were operations going on in the area related to trafficking, we know there was a multi-agency task force, right? Is it possible that Payne was in that area to begin with specifically because he was dealing with federal level operations related to it? And is that the same reason that Kopacka was there? And is that the same reason that Kohberger was there? All related to federally funded operations.
Oh,
and that is the connection between all of that. Now, obviously I could speculate. I wouldn't even pretend to know the complexity of intelligence level operations is heavy. They do 5D chess, right? I couldn't pretend to know all the machinations of the way they organize things, but it's just so bizarre that a guy with like a couple of years on the force becomes the lead detective of a quadruple homicide.
That could explain why Fry went off to Quantico for training for a couple of weeks before some of this went down as well. Just to say, sorry to interrupt again.
No, man, you're on the same page. I mean, I'm just trying to work it out in my head.
Yeah.
This is the part that bothers me the most, guys. So this is the part that bothers me the most. I was talking to Joe about this at length today. If this really is some kind of government, national security issue related to drugs coming across the thing, how do I explain this? At some point, is it pointless for us to talk about it? Because they will literally be allowed to lie about it all day long, to hide behind everything, make up evidence and lie to us about it. No amount of FOIA requests, public information requests are ever going to shake it loose, because they'll have legal standing to hide and bury everything. So so there's a part of me that's terrified that is what's happening, because we'll never be able to prove it, and we'll just look like idiots. And we'll have to shut up at some point.
Let's remember Josh Hurwitz being brought in, Lee. Remember him, because he was not brought in. I'm gonna tell all of you right now. This is my opinion, but I feel very strongly about it. They claim that Hurwitz was brought in to handle the psychological side to Brian's thing, and I do not believe that by any means whatsoever. Is all I'm going to tell you.
No, correct. I agree with you on that.
I agree with that too, and I think that the scariest part, or the hardest part to wrap your head around to what you said, Lee, was not only will we ever know, the shielding that they did publicly to make us think that it's corruption is all by the book behind the scenes. So they will never have to expose themselves. They will never get in trouble by it, because I've talked about this on my channel. We've not just allowed it, we've voted for that. We've said it's the whole greater good doctrine.
Right.
And I think we've gotten to a point in the digital age that the greater good doctrine, which allows you to lie to the public to protect, quote, things like national security, et cetera, there's a diminishing return when you have things that go too far. Right. And then all of the bodies, all of the skeletons in the closets, historically they're in federal grants to universities. They're all research grants, dude.
Yeah, and that's exactly why they use that as their justification to take a huge heaping hot shit on the Constitution and say,
exactly,
it's no big deal. It's no big deal, guys. It's for the greater good.
You can do whatever the fuck you
Yeah, Smith Mont too.
Well, you can do whatever the fuck you want in this country if you claim national security. That's the thing. We've gotten to a state where just invoking the word national security means you can do whatever you want.
Right.
And by the way, this user, that's how you pronounce that. This user right here. this user has
remember that
point.
every time I see that name now. I'm going to do that.
That was good, dude.
That was good.
I love it.
This user has a great point. Hurwitz came in to get the plea deal, and he did. He came in, and within a month or so of him being on the case, there's a plea deal that shocked everybody. I can't believe we have a plea deal. Well, I can. When Hurwitz came in, he came in to negotiate the plea deal. That's what he came in for, in my opinion.
Government ops never go to trial. And
it was never going to go to trial, gentlemen, lady.
No,
never going to go to trial.
And the thing is, with things like the Smith-Mont Modernization Act, the government is legally, you can go on the Congress website and look it up. They are legally allowed to propagandize American citizens, and by default, that means all their proxies, which means the media, social media, university, any avenue that works with the government, gets government funding, or has any connection to the government, can legally essentially lie to the public, right? And so federal operations are covered under national security, the National Security Act. So they can basically run us in circles from now until the end of time. Because if it was deemed a national security issue, which is very easy to do if federal agencies were involved, it can, just by that alone, it can be deemed a national security issue. So that's to your point, DA. That's the crux of the whole situation. What threads you pull, you can only do your best to connect dots and use logic to make sense of a clearly a fuck show of a fucking case.
Right. And Joe, this is what you and I talked about earlier today when I said, at first I was like, man, what if we're just wasting our time? Because we'll never be able to get if it really is a government cover up, if it really is a national security issue, they will be allowed to legally lie to us and they'll never tell us the truth. And yet, as I told you today, Joe, that hasn't stopped documentary after documentary and book after book to tell us that the JFK assassination was a government assassination. People can talk about it all day long. So maybe at the end of the day, we go write a book about what really happened, and they can deny and say it never happened that way. But at least we can say this is what really happened in our opinion, and they can deny it all day long if they want.
What is? Yeah, I believe that.
I'm a writer.
Would write a great book.
I'll write it.
Yeah, I'd love that.
Go for it, Robin.
What is the X factor for pressure to continue to go along with it in this situation? I think it's, when I say rather obvious, I'm not saying maybe off the top of your head, but I think once I say this, you guys will agree, and I'm curious what you guys would say. So what do you think? What's the pressure?
In what aspect?
What is the logic to continue to go along with it? Like, there's clearly pressure being applied. Is it protection? Is it?
Let me take a first crack at it, Bertie. Let me take a first crack at it. I will say this, from my understanding, this is the only hope we have. It really is true in the government. The left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing. The good news is, the one thing that we've got is that the government is so big and so stovepiped that if you ask the right questions, they will inadvertently reveal information because they don't communicate. They don't talk to each other. This is a problem in our government. So asking the right questions to the right place might still shake something loose, because they literally, the left hand does not know what the right hand is doing. And somebody might inadvertently reveal something that happened in this case because they don't talk. They don't communicate very well.
I fully agree with that. Yeah. That's exactly what I was going to say too, because I said it before, at some point, somebody's going to slip somehow, somewhere, sometime, because as much as we talk about it, the things that we're all trying to do to make some truth pop out, okay? Somewhere somebody's going to get nervous or just say, no, it didn't happen. It was this, and then, oh shit, whoops. and there it is. Okay,
To
that's
you-
all.
to-
That's fine.
To your
Well,
point,
really-
DA, there's a book that I read. It's called The CIA as Organized Crime. And the guy who wrote that book, he wrote a book about the Phoenix Project. I don't know if you guys know the Phoenix Project from Vietnam.
Absolutely.
That was when like Navy SEALs and Special Forces guys were brought in basically as hit squads.
Yep.
And it was a really controversial thing. Well, this guy, I forget the writer's name off the top of my head. He wrote a book about the Phoenix Project. The director of the CIA at the time, I guess this would have been maybe the book came out in the 90s, maybe, or late 80s. The director of the CIA at the time liked that guy's book. And that guy reached out when he was writing the new book, The CIA as Organized Crime. So the director of the CIA at the time, and I apologize, I can't remember which director it was, but he basically, because he liked this guy's book, he gave this guy carte blanche to go and interview CIA people. Now, the thing about the CIA, it's very compartmentalized, to your point.
Dulles,
One hand
by the way.
doesn't know, what the other hand is doing. So a lot of these guys he was interviewing were like, well, he got the A-OK from the director. So he would have gotten the A-OK from the director unless, he was okay. So they told him a lot of shit that probably shouldn't have gotten out. And so a lot of the things that he wrote about, the only reason he got that information is because half of the guys don't know what the other guy's telling him.
Right.
So he was able to gather all this different information about the way the CIA operates simply because of people assuming he was okay to talk to about it.
And if I could, I agree with that. Isn't that, JJ, isn't that when the quote unquote license to kill first became public knowledge? Wasn't that the book that they said you would literally have the license, or wouldn't you have a piece of paper where if you were in town amongst the Vietnamese and you showed this paper, even the local cops, is that the book that referenced that or no?
I didn't read his book about the Phoenix
Okay.
Project, but it's a pretty prominent book if the CIA director knew about it.
Yeah, because I'm pretty sure in Vietnam, that's where the whole license to kill came from. And I thought it was that book. But
that sounds familiar.
Yeah, nonetheless, though, DA, to go back when you said you want to take a first crack at it, I don't want to keep ping-ponging this back and forth. But people have to understand that an institution will self-preserve themselves with their own logic and have containment over any sort of disclosure or closure, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. And the pressure that I was referring to was they have the funding pressure.
Yeah.
And nobody ever looks at WSU. Everybody always looks at Idaho. Idaho technically had the victims. Nobody's looking at WSU where the killer went, which is kind of opposite of where you would think for these things, right? WSU is where Brian Koberger went to school. You would think that they would be on the hot seat, especially with families suing them for creating the conditions that brought Brian Koberger to WSU. Well, what would those conditions be? I go back to what JJ said. You're on fire tonight, JJ, in my opinion, with the funding. That's got to be one of the only reasons that they would ever have the balls to sue them civilly, because you can't sue the federal government for shit like that. You got to sue the university that gets federal funding that would have brought a gentleman like Brian Koberger to that campus. He could have applied for 13 PhD applications. So how can you argue that WSU created the conditions to bring him there? Well, there's a rather obvious one, and that's funding.
I agree.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to share a couple things really quick before we don't have to wrap up right away, but I want to make sure that we get this covered real quick. I want to show you something on screen. I'm going to take a risk here. Remove this.
Oh, wrong website, DA.
I did close the tab for the really embarrassing site that I had open. So we'll go. Give me a second here. I wanted to share with you this.
Hang on. Michelle Lynn A says Birdie obviously believes Brian is a killer. Well, Michelle Lynn A, sorry if you know anybody on this panel. I'm going to clown horn you on behalf of my own channel.
So really quick, I wanted to show you the receipts for the document we talked about today, where I put in a FOIA request, and I'm going to do this to plug my public records campaign on GoFundMe if you want to support this effort. This is one of the things that we submitted on a FOIA request, and this is the response. Lee Farrell, it's stamped unclassified email. This letter is a response to your Freedom of Information FOIA request. They talked about, they did a comprehensive review of documents conducted within our physical repository about the 82nd Airborne Division, blah, 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 Operation Enduring Freedom. And then they said, this is the key point. Research indicates both individuals, that's Brent Kopaka and Brian Koberger, were likely assigned to the 4th Brigade Combat Team, 4th BCT, 82nd Airborne Division. This unit was not activated until 2006, and our holdings for its higher commands do not cover this subsequent period. And so, again, signed by the branch chief of the Library of Archives at the Center of Military History, unclassified. That is your receipts to show you. And again, according to ChatGPT, that is a really, really strong statement. They're basically saying our records only go through 2005. However, we do believe these two individuals served together in 2006 in that combat division together. So they're tipping you off right here that it is indeed, they know about this. And so I have followed up to get the 100% receipts that they did overlap each other and serve together. But I wanted you to see it with your own eyes. This was part of the FOIA request that we submitted. And again, I want to urge you, if you haven't done so before, to contribute to the GoFundMe page right here, where we're trying to raise money for all these FOIA requests. And eventually they're going to start coming back like they have the Jewels and asking for $980 to see the footage from, for 12 hours, or $167 extra to get a muted. They're going to ask for money. So if you guys want to support this effort,
yes,
the custody queens,
and I put the link in the chat.
We've got several people that have donated large contributions.
Yes.
Please consider supporting. I will use your money correctly. I will not use this to buy donuts and coffee. This will only go towards fighting this legal fight. If you believe in it, make sure you go there and
absolutely
GoFundMe site to help pay for that campaign.
And I have that posted on my community page as well, folks, to support Lee in that aspect as well, because any bit and anywhere we can get it done, please do. Please do.
Yeah, thank you so much.
So about you saying about hopefully someone comes forward or something gets released. I mean, look what just happened now. So Jules paid about $1,000, right, for this 2:30 to 3:30 1112 video, and I remember her saying that one of the, I guess the girl or whatever who she dealt with routinely wasn't in the office or whatnot. It was someone else that helped her. And was it a mistake that we got that audio? Because now you look at the audio that you just got. At first, they wanted her to pay an additional $166 or whatever it was.
Yep.
So she paid the money, got this, 12:55 to 2:30 video, and now what? Now there's no audio at all.
And the girl left her a message. Right, the girl left her a
suspicious.
message today and said she's going to be out of the office for the next 3 days, and then sent it to her. Hit mute, uploaded it, and sent it to her. Tell me they didn't do that on purpose. Come on,
Right.
That's insane. They're playing games with everybody.
Yeah.
It's extortion, folks. I had Booking with B on my show last week. They quoted her just for the filings, you guys. The filings, $20,000. Justify that to me. Justify that to me somehow. Anyway, you can't. It makes no sense to me whatsoever. Everything is muted. What happened?
Did we lose Lee?
Sorry, guys. My mic was muted too.
Lee fell out.
Let me just say
guys,
this, and then I'm going to head off. I'm going to head off.
Down in chat.
No, I'm going to say this real quick. So Twiz thinks that I edited out me crashing out, calling him a bitch, but if he clearly doesn't watch my videos, I'm not trying to say that anybody cares about creator beef. I do a live and then I do a quick cut. And so I don't think you should continue to get butthurt because the only reason you were relevant is because Cy said your name once, but since then you're using borrowed clout and putting my profile picture as your profile picture. So nobody edited out anything. Go watch the live, you simp.
Well, hey, by the way, I did not get disconnected by the federal government. I actually had to go take a wicked piss. So,
Wicked piss.
So I think, by the way, I know people said you don't need to stick to a certain time level, but I do like to keep these things around 2 hours. I did want to start to kind of close. Bertie and Dago, so awesome that you guys joined us tonight. I really, really super appreciate that. Yeah, I'm sorry that the audience sometimes can get a little dicey. We have good mods. They usually take care of that kind of stuff like that. And Twiz has been on the show, and he's, Twiz is one of those guys that kind of like says things in ways that rubs people the wrong ways. And so, sorry that kind of happened. I don't know what kind of
classic DA.
Is that classic DA? Why is that classic?
Bertie would have liked last night's show.
Yeah,
I accidentally I called. I was reading a comment and I called him by the wrong name.
You know what we did? By the way, we did kick we did kick one of our users off that heckled you and me.
Yes.
We kicked him off the channel entirely. But
Yep.
But yeah, so I really appreciate you guys coming on stage and sharing your opinions. I think it's fantastic. And hopefully something will shake out. I'm a little bit nervous. Like I said, if this is some kind of government operation, they're gonna lie. They're gonna be allowed to lie to us all day long, every day, and twice on Sunday. And so, what can we do about it other than write a book and say, here's what we think really happened, and they can lie to you about it and say it didn't happen this way, but here's how it did. Before we close, let's give Bertie and Dago the chance to go first, since they want to kind of get cut out, and then we'll say goodnight to everybody else. Bertie, do you got anything you want to share on the way out?
I think that it's cool that everybody is finally at least open to funding federal operation style stuff, right? I think that that's been something that's been fringe. Now seeing the documents and just the hassle that it takes to get things that were redacted, it's starting to make a lot more sense that it's at least worth considering, which to me is something that I'm like, finally, at least, even if it's wrong, people are thinking that way. You know what I mean? I think I told you that on the phone, DA, where it's like, at least people are thinking that way.
Yeah. No, the extortion they're asking for documents and stuff like that is ridiculous. We need to fight back on that. And by the way, and it wasn't quite what your point was, but you were the first person, Bertie, that mentioned the whole like funding that happened at WSU and in Idaho. I think that still is part of the narrative. I think we still have to keep looking into those kind of things. So I'm super thankful for our relationship, Bertie and I. You and I, we tend to go a little bit different paths, but yet I think both of us, like you said, we're outside the box thinkers. And so we entertain all those different options. Dago as well. By the way, I want to give you a chance to say goodnight to us. Dago, I'm so glad that you also came on tonight and shared some of your opinions. Like I said, I tried to get a hold of you before tonight's live to kind of get your thoughts on it, but we did fine tonight. So what do you got to say on the way out tonight?
I just thank you very much for having me again. I always enjoy being over here, having a conversation. Bertie, it was good to talk to you again too, bro. I think this is the only way it's ever going to work out, where anything, if there's any possibility of anything whatsoever coming from this, a positivity, that I don't care if we have different angles, different theories, feelings, opinions, thoughts, any of that. We're all working for the same thing, and that's real truth at the end of this, okay? This is the only way it's ever going to work, in my opinion. Bouncing back and forth against each other is not going to do any good. Going this direction, that direction, this direction, it's not going to do any good. We all want the same thing, and that's truth, you guys, period, because we haven't gotten any bit of truth in this damn case at all. That's all I'm saying. So as far as I'm concerned, as long as we keep going forward with that same mission in mind, that's all that matters to me. And I really appreciate you guys allowing me to join you again tonight. It's always a great time over here. So thank you again.
Yeah,
I agree. This was fun.
Yeah, thank you both for coming on. It was special having you guys tonight. It was a great addition to the show. So thank you, Bertie and Dago, for coming in. I'll say goodnight to my panelists as well. Joe, State of the Deep, any closing thoughts from you?
Yeah, I wanted to say, I don't usually get too warm and fuzzy, but finding other content creators that think outside the box has been a great thing, because sometimes you feel like you're a man on an island when you think outside the box and you have bigger ideas and bigger picture ideas about stuff. And guys like Birdie and Dago and DA and 1-1 and Robin. Robin's one of the boys. She knows when I say she's one of the guys. It really has been a great thing for me, because for a bunch of years I was feeling like, you're just sort of, like I said, a man on an island, and it's been great to discover and actually interact with people that think outside the box. It restores my faith in humanity a little bit.
Yeah. Super cool. Yeah. And I think these are, all of us, this is why, maybe to Birdie's detriment sometimes, I try to keep the peace between all of us YouTubers. Some of us YouTubers get a little sketchy with each other and snippy with each other. And maybe to my detriment, I'm a little bit more of a peacekeeper than I should be. But I try to say, hey, look, can't we all just get along?
You ain't going to see me doing that though. I'm the same way, bro. That's what I mean.
It puts you in a bad spot sometimes. I've been there, done that for years.
And I feel bad because Birdie is a loyalist. Like if somebody attacks his friends, he will attack back. And to my detriment, maybe I hope people don't think I don't defend Birdie, and maybe it does come across that way sometimes. But me just being a peacekeeper by nature, I try to always bring down the level of vitriol with that. And so Birdie, you don't need to respond to it, but I don't mean you any disrespect if I don't like jump all over someone's ass if they conflict with you, just because I'm trying to make us all kind of get along.
No,
but
I'm the same way. I'm not disrespected at all.
Yeah, good.
I love you, and I love Dago, JJ State of the Deep, 1-1, Robin. You guys know. I just my biggest point is when I'm like, I don't even know how to defend myself, so I'm like, all right,
yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, and right now, I think, by the way, before I say good night to 1-1 and Robin, right now, I think a lot of people are really spun up. Like content creators are really going after each other and saying some really shitty things about each other. And that's the last thing we need right now. What I would like to see is a bit more of a united front where we start attacking this thing together instead of drawing lines in the sand and getting all egotistical about this is my shit and I'm the one that broke this and whatever. So I hope that we can work together in the future and keep moving in that direction. 1-1 and Robin, let's say goodnight to you guys. 1-1, do you have any parting thoughts?
Just keep fighting the good fight. And you just said it. It's about creating a united front. It doesn't matter, who discovers what, or bouncing, these different theories and thinking outside the box and whatnot. Even, maybe you don't completely agree with a certain thing, at least just listen and entertain. Sometimes some of the problem is people have horrible listening skills. You got to learn to listen to what other people have to say sometimes. And you might get put into a different direction, and just keep working together and hope we get some truth.
Yeah, and it's funny because I saw somebody say we pretty much want the Dylan song on the way out. I think I will play us out. We haven't done this for a long time.
It's a super nice song.
Robin, you get the last word. What's the last word, Robin?
Oh gosh. Well, it is true. We all need to keep working together to find the answers because it is worth it. So many people keep saying, oh, why are you still doing it? Well, this is why. It's about the truth, and whatever it takes to bring that about, let's do it. Let's fucking do it. So we need to stop fighting with each other and fighting for the truth. So
well said. And I think that's a great one. DA, I am DA, Birdie, Dago, JJ, 1-1, Robin. Too many drinks on a Friday night. DA, you did great tonight, buddy. You did great.
You did.
He's talking about himself in the third person.
Thank you all. As a parting gift, we're going to play Pretty Much by Dylan. Yes, it's a parody song. Yes, it's super offensive, but everybody in Moscow is super nice. Hope you guys have a great night.
Super nice song.
Yeah.
Thanks, DA.
Pull this off. Yeah, good night.
Good night, everybody.
Take care, buddy.
Is it real or just a dream? Can I tell you what I've seen? Pretty much at 4 a.m. a man appeared in front of me. I don't recall a single thing. I'm so lost inside my mind. No one answers when I ring. Was it real or just a lie? Can I tell you what happened? Pretty much at 4 a.m. something happened. Pretty much, I don't know what happened. Pretty much, everyone is super nice. My friends were home, but I'm not sure. I went straight past and left her there. When I saw her lying on the floor, I ran away, but I wasn't scared. I don't recall a single thing. I'm so lost inside my mind. No one answers when I ring. Was it real or just a lie? Can I tell you what happened? Pretty much at 4 a.m. something happened. Pretty much, I don't know what happened. Pretty much, everyone is super nice. No one's answering. I'm really confused. I'm not remembering. Please, may I be excused? It wasn't like anything was wrong. I don't know if this is real or not. She danced with the dog and sang a song. What happened? I don't know. I forgot. I don't recall a single thing. I'm so lost in